weapons, and now researchers are running clinical trials, coming back with the same jaw-dropping conclusion. Ancient people knew exactly what they were doing. Today we're walking through 10 foods found directly in biblical text and uncovering the real science behind why each one is a healing powerhouse the modern world has forgotten. Stay with me all the way through this list. Because number 4 was so medically powerful, the ancient Egyptians documented it in over 20 different medical preparations. And number 9? It wasn't traded, it wasn't stored, it was gifted by a patriarch to an Egyptian ruler. Not grain, not gold, this food. And when you discover what it does to your cardiovascular system, you'll understand exactly why. All right, let's get into it. Number 10. Dates, the original energy bar that kept armies alive. Let's start here, because dates might be the most underestimated food on this entire list. The date palm is mentioned across biblical and ancient Middle Eastern writings more than almost any other fruit-bearing tree. And it wasn't praised because it looked good. It was praised because it kept people alive in some of the harshest environments on Earth. Think about it. Soldiers crossing scorching desert terrain, travelers going days without fresh food, and yet they survived. Because dates are packed with natural sugars for quick energy, fiber for digestion, and minerals like potassium and magnesium that keep the body functioning under stress. In other words, this wasn't just food, this was survival. Traders walking hundreds of miles on foot, pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem for feast days. What did they carry? Dates, calorie-dense, shelf-stable for months, no refrigeration, and loaded with fast-absorbing natural sugars that refuel the body, without the crash that comes with refined sugar. But here's where it gets medically interesting. Dates aren't just quick fuel. They're packed with magnesium, potassium, copper, manganese, and B vitamins, all in a single piece of food you can hold in the palm of your hand. And the fiber? It slows the absorption of those sugars just enough. So instead of a spike and crash, you get a steady, sustained release of energy. That means a much gentler glycemic response compared to processed sweeteners. Now here's the part that really makes researchers pause. Clinical studies have found something remarkable about dates in pregnancy. Multiple controlled trials show that women who regularly consume dates in the final weeks of pregnancy experienced significantly shorter labor times and better cervical dilation at the time of admission. Ancient midwives knew this. They prescribed dates on purpose. And now, modern obstetrics is just catching up to what they already understood. But it doesn't stop there. Dates contain polyphenols and tannins, compounds known for their antimicrobial properties. Even the pits, the part most people throw away, were ground into powder and used in traditional Arabic medicine to help treat gastrointestinal infections. Think about that. Nothing was wasted. Everything had a purpose, and the traditional use is simple. 3 to 5 dates before physical work or long travel. A natural sweetener in cooking and baking. And most importantly, a gentle way to break a fast, which is exactly why for centuries they've been used to end the fast during Ramadan. Because after hours without food, the body doesn't need shock. It needs restoration. And dates enter the system in a way that is smooth, steady, and deeply nourishing. Here's your next section, dialed up with tension, rhythm, and that documentary feel. Not jarring. This isn't some trendy superfood. This is survival food, with a clinical track record going back thousands of years. Number 9. Pistachios. The nut a patriarch considered worthy of a king. Here's a moment most people read and completely miss. When Jacob sends his sons to Egypt during a devastating famine, they're not just going to buy food, they're going to negotiate for survival. And he tells them to bring gifts. Among those gifts, pistachios.
Genesis 43:11.
Read that again, slowly. A man whose entire family's future is on the line doesn't choose gold, doesn't choose livestock, he chooses this. Why? Because pistachios weren't just food, they were rare, valuable, and incredibly nutrient-dense, packed with healthy fats, plant protein, and antioxidants. Modern research now shows pistachios can help lower LDL cholesterol, improve blood vessel function, and support overall cardiovascular health. In other words, this wasn't just a gift, it was a strategic offering, something of both value and life-sustaining power. Pistachios, as a gift to an Egyptian ruler. That tells you everything. These weren't snacks. This was currency-grade nutrition. And modern science now confirms that valuation was justified. Pistachios are unique among nuts because of their concentration of lutein and zeaxanthin, two carotenoids that act as primary protection for the macula of the eye, which means this: regular pistachio consumption is now directly linked to a reduced risk of age-related macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of blindness in the modern world. But it doesn't stop there. They contain more potassium per serving than most other nuts, helping regulate blood pressure and support heart function. Their amino acid profile? Unusually complete for a plant food, making them a powerful complementary protein source, especially in diets that don't rely heavily on meat. But here's what really surprised researchers: what pistachios do to the gut. Clinical studies show that regular consumption significantly increases beneficial bacteria in the colon, especially bifidobacterium strains, more effectively than most other nuts ever tested. Let that sink in. Before anyone had a word like microbiome, before lab tests, before clinical trials, the household of Jacob was already consuming one of its most powerful supporters as a prestige food. Here's something most people don't know. The cell wall structure of pistachios actually changes how your body processes them. Some of the fat inside is not fully absorbed during digestion. Instead, it passes through intact and feeds your gut bacteria, instead of being stored. That's why pistachios deliver more satiety, with fewer net calories than their label suggests. In other words, they nourish you without weighing you down. Traditional use was simple: eaten raw or lightly roasted as a daily nutrient source, ground into pastes for cooking, pressed into oil, and even used on the skin. Jacob understood value. We should treat pistachios the same way he did. Number 8. Barley. The grain of ordinary people that outperforms everything. Barley isn't glamorous. It never was. In the ancient world, it was the grain of soldiers on campaign, sailors at sea, and laborers who couldn't afford wheat. It was the bread of survival. And when Jesus Christ fed 5,000 people in the Gospel of John, those loaves? Barley, not luxury bread, everyday bread. And yet, that ordinary grain turns out to be one of the most cardiovascular protective foods ever studied. Barley. Here's your continuation: tight, authoritative, and building momentum. Number 7. Pomegranate, the antioxidant that decorated a temple. The pillars of Solomon's temple were decorated with 200 carved pomegranates. That wasn't random. In a culture where every design carried meaning, nothing was placed without intention. The pomegranate symbolized abundance, beauty, life. Across Mosaic law and ancient Israelite culture, this fruit represented fertility and blessing. But here's what's fascinating. The symbolism wasn't just spiritual, it was biological truth, long before anyone had the language to explain it. Because modern science now shows that pomegranate is one of the most powerful antioxidant foods ever studied. Here's your continuation: refined, powerful, and flowing like a premium documentary. Lightning. Why this fruit earned that status is genuinely remarkable. Pomegranates contain a compound called punicalagin, found in almost no other food source on Earth. And when your gut processes it, it converts it into compounds called urolithins. This is where modern research gets intense, because urolithins have shown anti-inflammatory effects, mitochondrial protection, and in laboratory studies, the ability to selectively target certain cancer cell lines in ways researchers describe as significant. Now bring that into real-world data. Clinical trials using pomegranate juice have demonstrated lower blood pressure, reduced oxidation of LDL cholesterol, improved arterial flexibility, and decreased levels of C-reactive protein, one of the key markers for systemic inflammation. Let that sink in. The antioxidant power of pomegranate actually outranks red wine, green tea, and blueberries, three foods practically synonymous with antioxidant research, and yet pomegranate surpasses them all. The seeds and juice carry most of the nutritional spotlight, but the rind, the part most people throw away without a second thought, is even more concentrated medicinally than the inside. Traditional healers across the Middle East understood this. They brewed the rind into tea to treat intestinal infections. Because again, nothing was wasted. Everything had purpose. Here's your next section: clean, powerful, and building emotional plus scientific weight. Diarrhea and inflammatory gut conditions. And now modern research is studying that same rind for its antimicrobial tannin content. Traditional use was simple: eat the seeds fresh, drink freshly pressed juice for a concentrated dose of polyphenols, and dry the rind to steep as a medicinal tea for gut health. Because the truth is, the whole fruit provides what modern supplements are still trying to imitate. Use the whole fruit. Number 6, garlic, the food people cried over. This might be the most emotionally charged food reference in all of Scripture. When the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness, surviving on manna, they reached a breaking point, and they wept. What did they say they missed? Numbers 11:5.
The fish of Egypt, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic.
Think about that. They had just been delivered from slavery, and yet, they were mourning the absence of garlic. Why? Because once you understand what garlic actually does to the human body, their grief starts to make sense. When garlic is crushed or chopped, it produces a compound called allicin, and allicin is one of the most powerful broad-spectrum natural antimicrobials ever identified. It has shown activity against bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Not just one threat, multiple, at the same time. And that's key, because garlic doesn't just target a single pathogen, it disrupts multiple microbial pathways simultaneously, which is exactly why resistance is so difficult for microorganisms to develop against it. In other words, this wasn't just flavor. Controlled clinical trials now show that regular garlic consumption reduces both the frequency and duration of colds and respiratory infections. Multiple studies confirm it can lower blood pressure, reduce LDL cholesterol to clinically meaningful levels, and even decrease platelet aggregation, making the blood less prone to dangerous clotting. It also supports the liver, enhancing the body's natural detoxification enzymes that process and eliminate harmful compounds. But here's the key detail most people miss. Allicin is volatile. Heat destroys it, which means raw, freshly crushed garlic is dramatically more potent medicinally than cooked garlic. The ancient world understood this. They used garlic both ways, cooked into stews, and raw in dressings and preparations. But the raw form was the medicine. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri, dating back thousands of years, list garlic in over 20 different medical treatments. So when the Israelites wept for it, they weren't being dramatic. They knew, by experience, what life felt like with it, and what it felt like without it. Your eyes on number 5, figs the prescription that saved the king. HTTPS images.openai.com C-static RC4 C-kishkio D-VLS-C-5-TX-VYD CRMCM-indeed XMRE1 Y-Z-Tier-OT I-Student-Line-G OP1-QB-H-1-W-X-Ra Y-Kajif-RL through V6-LG-TN-1-W-X-4-SN-V-E-C-F-K-IBZ-DN-BO-M-U-1 J-C-N-O-C-3-4-BD-9-40-F-Frin-1-Zif-1-Nimman-C-J-5-B-3-R-F-M-B-V-Y-Z Nimpi-Jua-Boy-Y-M-K-4-F-C-S-N-R-G-D-X-M-G-W-S-N-P-X-K-U-G-B-Z purpose full size Weight HTTPs images OpenAI.com static RSC force G9-4-X-Z-Web-Y-L 4-ED-N-G-D-Y-M-9-D-C-M-B-C-F-Crew-T-Z-L-D-V-R-A AC-B-D-R-7-M-I-O-F-S-B-D-L-R-L-G-B-V-T-S-F-G-B but E-F-N-J-5 C-H-4-4 R-G-P-H-J-V-6-LX the purpose at full size. HTTPS, images, openai.com, statica RC4FKRD, doxMOSKM, GOBHCSCW, Hardzone Form Ups BP, PRQ Sench7 KY, Onjik Super Abux K, the Mitox PG, JCO9GN, Nos, and WRB and JCNY, TMB, HDP, JF, on KSGQF, GM, or Zor, MBB, JFD, Genet Left Stomach, XS, ASIDK, B6 Poont, HDHKDB, ITMSP, JFHC, DZ, KOICG, DUG, XLR, PCG, XVTS, VFX, purpose, id, full size. HTTPS images to openai.com static RC4 on CI6Q, CNWZ7 archijo, inal in MC MBS QGMD1, HRMPs TWRIGGST.WebCRTRP, IM7 ESPPCSJ and ZLL Steam Ski becomes an image to LQSR and HLC6FP, FYAS and HMST JWHYBF4GL XMN QDSR UPKB Thrice LRUP, HKL LGIS KSLSG MQ and F Senator Biad Staff Kate I Schweiger, purpose at full size. HTTPS images to openai.com static RC4, SD7G GPR and RP 6KGF 4G 4 BM1 UFO, Inkandabzi, no PCR9, Fskut can see KHD Skut QVC, Sazon Sanchi Zeponzo, BW.GMYG. The I need JRO Kilfa, Functional YSBTX Pocket Details at Kisk, PVH and BFA with FEP, was no EPN BJ and TFJF CLRGQ or Shabx to MBN UGPM, Rikit ZB9 Body Direct UCDE, purpose at full size. HTTPS, images openai.com static. RC4, MZK TV5, GME Jigu and VX, Vianem Mefta. YWHNIX, RKPQs UPKN fuse RFTX MK French forwards and sorry upon you appears REY7 LTQs as BHDO. QTOD TBS Bugiro QBT of PHDR site TBS their gauge Z3SFPM Muru, Joe Wumif, Turns in additional U6FCI HTFE, MJ9YXFX9 VP QVita, QRZYM5DSF purpose for sites. HTTP says images the OpenAI static. RSC4 embusted and non ser easier virtual. Sigin MHXPZM Zabaharajiraj or view direct stable VHMLK. DKXTZ5 SPITA, Azusit Q9JR SSBTZFR, Nifa Pilochini or ZYSS Lochicher, May Bujil Zats Successor and Dinu, MSRTQs, RMC ShiWAKDY, BRF NWSP and CPHXP to the HQT2N9GR, FioKG1 CRT, HSK, DDFM, XVJ, and Vizi purpose machine for size, HTTPS images to OpenAI.com, static RC4, XKEFMCR and Tarsensifica VSVPZ, 25 RKH Pepper 711H, 30 C1 KF OMDMs of MGOKR6ZW with HR, O81R2 RBUT Map 081, 7 LC4 Shvixi, UJVC 0 Bichon Kid Bikun Bichishi IQ, KPL3J5 ASOVGIS QDH HBTPCQ K5 RKTRDG Shashazan Shishanjid GLB SF purpose full size. Here's a detail most people read right past without realizing what it actually means. In 2 Kings 27, when King Hezekiah is dying from a severe infected wound, the prophet Isaiah doesn't just pray, he gives a medical instruction: apply a compress of figs directly to the wound, and the king recovers. For centuries, people treated that moment as metaphor or coincidence. But then, researchers started studying figs seriously, and what they found was precise. Figs contain a proteolytic enzyme called physin, which breaks down dead and damaged tissue, essentially cleaning a wound from the inside out. They also contain compounds like psoralens and benzaldehyde, both of which have documented antimicrobial properties. So what looked like a simple act was actually a form of targeted treatment. Here's your next section: refined, cinematic, and fully dialed in for impact and retention. Fresh fig latex. The white, sticky substance from an unripe fig has been shown in studies to inhibit bacterial growth and accelerate the early stages of skin healing. But figs aren't just for wounds. As a food, they're one of the most mineral-dense fruits you can eat, loaded with soluble fiber, especially pectin, which feeds and diversifies beneficial gut bacteria, packed with magnesium, potassium, calcium, and B vitamins. In a world without multivitamins, this was the supplement. Fresh figs deliver quick energy plus that mineral payload. Dried figs? They preserve that nutrition through seasons when nothing else was available. And that ancient practice, applying mashed figs directly to inflamed or infected skin, is something modern science is only beginning to revisit. Because again, Isaiah didn't guess. He prescribed. And the prescription worked. Number 4. Onions, the prebiotic foundation of a civilization. Onions appear right alongside garlic in Numbers 11:5, and that wasn't accidental. They weren't just flavor, they were a food group. Here's the part most people overlook. Egyptian laborers who built the pyramids were partially paid in onions and garlic, not given as a bonus. paid in them. When a civilization building the largest structures in human history uses a food as currency, that food is not optional. It's foundational, and science now tells us exactly why. Onions are one of the richest dietary sources of quercetin, a powerful polyphenol with anti-inflammatory, antihistamine, and antioxidant effects. Clinical research shows quercetin can lower blood pressure, reduce chronic inflammatory signaling, and even stabilize mast cells, reducing allergic responses. But here's the real superpower: prebiotic fiber. Onions are loaded with inulin-type fructans, fibers that pass through the small intestine untouched and arrive in the colon, where they selectively feed bifidobacterium and lactobacillus, the foundation of a healthy gut. Think about this. The ancient Israelite diet was built around garlic, onions, and leeks daily. Every single one from the allium family. Every single one rich in these prebiotic compounds. Before the word microbiome even existed, they were already eating in a way that built one. On top of that, the sulfur compounds in onions support the liver's detoxification pathways, helping the body eliminate toxins more efficiently. Raw onions, maximum quercetin. Cooked onions, sustained prebiotic support. Either way, these aren't side ingredients. They're the foundation. Number 3, raw honey heavens antimicrobial.
Honey and milk are under your tongue. Song of Solomon. Eat honey, for it is good. Proverbs.
The Bible doesn't repeat something this often by accident. Raw honey was known as a source of strength, clarity, and healing. And the reason isn't poetic, it's biochemical. Raw honey is one of the most extensively studied natural antimicrobials in existence. Clinical research shows it can even kill antibiotic-resistant bacteria, including MRSA. How? Through 3 simultaneous mechanisms. It produces hydrogen peroxide on contact. Its low water content and acidic pH create a hostile environment, and it contains defensin 1, a protein that destroys bacterial cells. That's not one line of defense. That's a system. A specific type, Manuka honey, is now used in certified medical wound dressings in hospitals worldwide, not alternative medicine, standard protocol. But here's the key word in all of this: raw. Heat destroys the enzymes that make honey medicinal. That clear, ultra-processed honey on shelves, that's syrup. The honey that sustained ancient travelers was unfiltered, unheated, and alive. Applied to wounds, it prevents infection. Taken at the first sign of illness, it actively works. Mixed with warm water and lemon, it supports the immune system without the inflammatory hit of refined sugar. And here's something almost nobody talks about. Archaeologists have found 3,000-year-old honey in Egyptian tombs, still edible. There is no other food on earth like that. A symbol built into sacred design.
When Moses was given instructions for the lampstand.
The design? Almond blossoms.
When Aaron's rod budded overnight, it produced almonds.
This wasn't random. The almond tree blooms first. Before anything else wakes up, it became a symbol of watchfulness, awakening, divine timing. But the people choosing that symbol ate almonds every day, and they knew what they did to the body. Almonds are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth. A single serving provides about 37% of your daily vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that protects your cells from damage linked to aging, heart disease, and cancer. They're also rich in magnesium, a mineral involved in over 300 reactions in the body. Deficiency is linked to anxiety, poor sleep, high blood pressure, and blood sugar issues. Clinical studies show almonds can lower LDL cholesterol, reduce blood sugar spikes, improve gut microbiome diversity, and promote satiety, helping with weight balance. And just like pistachios, some of their fat isn't fully absorbed, meaning it feeds your gut instead of being stored. Again, designed nutrition. The ancient world's most complete medicine.